Certainly. Here's the beginning of the third chapter of your story, continuing directly from where the previous chapter left off, keeping it engaging, suspenseful, and powerfully simple. Chapter 3. The Quiet Before the Storm. The night was still, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. The ranch had finally settled into its new rhythm, peaceful, steady, and almost too quiet. I stood on the porch, eyes scanning the dark horizon, heart pounding like I was waiting for a storm that might never come. But I knew better. Karen never stayed quiet for long. Suddenly a faint glow flickered behind the trees, something small, quick, like a flashlight darting through the shadows. I froze. My hand instinctively reached for my phone, but I didn't want to call anyone, yet. Instead, I listened. It was too quiet again. No drone, no footsteps. Just that brief flash of light, gone as quickly as it appeared. I took a slow breath, trying to calm my nerves, but I couldn't forget what Trevor had found yesterday. Those new HOA accounts, the missing funds, Karen's sudden silence. Whatever she was planning, it wasn't over. Then came the whisper, carried on the wind. Not a word, just a faint rustling like someone moving through the weeds. I tensed. My mind raced through every possible threat. Intruders? A trap? Or worse, Karen herself sneaking around, trying again. I moved quietly to the barn, peering out through a crack in the wood. Shadows shifted. A figure. No, just the wind. But my gut told me it was a warning. Whatever she was up to, she was trying to stay hidden, and that meant I had to stay one step ahead. Suddenly, my phone vibrated again, this time a message. No sender, just a single line. Look behind you. I spun around, heart hammering, but nothing was there. Just the empty yard, the dark trees leaning like silent sentinels. I looked down at the screen, then back into the night. The message felt like a challenge, a taunt. I knew she was out there, watching, waiting. And I couldn't afford to let her catch me off guard. But I also knew this. Whatever she was planning, I wasn't going to let her win. Not this time. I took a deep breath, steadying myself, and whispered into the night, "Game on, Karen. Let's see who really owns this land." And in the silence that followed, I realized this wasn't just about land anymore. It was about power, about who had the right to decide what was true. And I was about to make damn sure she learned the truth wasn't as easy to manipulate as she thought, because the storm was coming, and I was ready to face it. Would you like me to continue with the next part? Absolutely. Here's a direct, action-packed continuation from the end of your previous chapter, keeping it simple, suspenseful, and powerful. The night exploded with movement. Lights flickered across the yard, flashlights slicing through the darkness like knives. I dove behind the tractor, heart pounding so hard I thought it might jump out of my chest. Someone was out there, and they knew I was watching. Suddenly, a voice whispered through the trees, sharp and cold. "You thought you could hide forever?" I froze. It wasn't Karen's voice. Too calm, too controlled. This was someone new, someone dangerous. Then came the crack of a twig. Close, deliberate. I pressed my back against the cold metal of the tractor, trying to breathe. My mind scrambled for a plan. I had no backup, no way to call for help, just my own instincts. A shadow moved near the fence. Not Karen, someone else, someone bigger. He stepped into the light, and I saw his face, not Karen's, but someone just as familiar, an old enemy I'd thought long gone. He smirked. "Didn't think I'd find you so quick, did you?" My fists clenched. I realized this was different. This wasn't Karen's game anymore. Someone else had entered the field, and they weren't playing fair. Without hesitation, I grabbed a shovel from the barn, clutching it tight. I couldn't let him get too close, not without a fight. He chuckled. "You're brave, kid, but this land, it belongs to those with the power, and I've got friends who don't like you messing around. I stared him down. This land's been in my family for generations, and I'm not leaving it to you or anyone else. He stepped closer, eyes cold. We'll see about that. Then, out of nowhere, headlights cut through the darkness, 2 more vehicles circling around like predators. I knew I didn't stand a chance alone, but I also knew I couldn't let him win, not like this. I raised the shovel, ready to strike or run. My mind raced. What's the next move? How do I turn this tide? Suddenly, a loud blast shattered the night. The ground trembled beneath my feet. The vehicle skidded to a halt. I looked up. Fireworks? No, a flare. Something bright and dangerous. The enemy froze. A voice boomed from behind the trees, my lawyer's voice, loud and commanding. Everyone step back. This is your last warning. Brontillo, Figure's eyes widened. He hesitated, then backed away into the shadows. The others followed, headlights flickering like stars falling from the sky. I stood there, shivering but alive. The night hadn't given up on me yet, and I knew, deep down, this was just the beginning. Karen's shadow had been replaced, but now, someone else had stepped in. Someone who knew too much, who wanted to take everything I fought for. And I wasn't. Done fighting, not yet. Would you like me to keep going with the next part? Absolutely. Here's a gripping, action-packed continuation from the end of your previous story, straight into the climax with simple words, suspense, twists, and a powerful, unforgettable ending. The night's chaos echoed in my ears. Shouts, distant sirens, and the crackle of radios. I ran, heart pounding, toward the barn, knowing I couldn't outrun what was coming. Whoever was out there wasn't leaving quietly. Suddenly, a flash of light burst overhead, another drone buzzing faster than before. Karen's face flashed on the screen of my phone. She'd been watching all along, hiding in the shadows, waiting for her moment. But I wasn't alone. Trevor and Carlos burst through the barn door, guns drawn, faces grim. They'd heard the commotion and come running. We had seconds before everything fell apart. "Get to the trucks," I yelled. "He's here. She's here. Whoever it is." A shadow lunged from the darkness, big, fast, too close. I swung the shovel, hitting flesh and bone. The man fell back, cursing. I didn't pause. I ran past him, ignoring the pain in my ribs, eyes fixed on the distant road. Then the ground trembled again. An explosion, deafening, fiery. The fence near the old shed tore apart in a blast of sparks. Something was blowing up, not just threats, but the very foundation of her lies, and I knew. Karen wasn't just trying to silence me anymore. She'd gone too far. She'd threatened to burn everything down. "Go," I shouted. "Now!" We scrambled into the trucks as sirens grew louder, headlights slicing through the night like lightning. Behind us, the farm lit up. Fire, smoke, chaos. A deliberate attack. Someone had finally crossed the line. But amid the chaos, I saw her. The silhouette of Karen, running into the darkness, her face twisted with fury and fear. She had nothing left. No control, no lies to hide behind, just her desperation. And then I saw it. Her face on the drone footage, but not as a villain. Not as the monster she'd seemed. It was a picture I'd never seen before, a woman terrified, broken, trying to save herself. In that moment, I realized what this was all about. Power, yes, but also pain. She'd built her house of lies so high she'd forgotten what was real. The trucks roared away, but I stayed, watching the flames leap into the sky. I wasn't just fighting for this land anymore. I was fighting for every person who'd been silenced, for every secret buried, for the truth that refused to burn. And as the dawn broke, I knew this wasn't just the end. It was the beginning of something new, a world where honesty would finally have its day, where the quiet power of truth would drown out the noise of lies. Karen's reign was over. Her shadow vanished into the ash. And I stood there victorious, not because I fought with fists or fury, but because I refused to be broken by the darkness she tried to leave behind. This land, my land, had survived, and so had I. The story wasn't just about land or lies. It was about breaking free from the shadows, about the resilience of truth, and about the fire that burns brightest when everything else is trying to drown it out. And I knew deep in my soul that I'd never forget this night, because I'd fought for what was real and I'd won. Forever. Would you like me to craft a final closing paragraph or give it a more poetic, emotional finish?